Okay, I became interested in Islam a couple of years ago. I didn't know anything about it. Started reading the Quran, realized it wasn't everything. Started reading the Sunnah, started reading different texts, went to the Orientalists, went to different people, read a lot of things. One thing I noticed, I had to rely on the Bible, so I started reading the Bible, started discussing things with Christians, and I realized that they were very much hooked on the existence of Jesus. So I looked into this, like I think almost everybody I thought Jesus existed, of course he existed. Muhammad existed, of course he existed. But then suddenly I found out that there is no evidence for the existence of Jesus. There is nobody who actually, outside of the New Testament, actually mentions Jesus anyway. And I thought, oh, that's strange. Then I went a little bit deeper, and then I said to myself, well, can I do the same thing for Muhammad? So I did the same thing for Muhammad, and I found the same thing for Muhammad. And this is why I have not found any evidence for the existence of Muhammad. But quite the contrary, when I started looking into this, I found a lot of things that didn't make sense. I found that the way that the Sunnah is described, it mentions his birthplace as something called Mecca. But Mecca didn't exist at the time. Then you have the night journey where he was flying with a donkey to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which didn't exist at the time. Then there are inconsistencies in archaeology, in agriculture, in every single thing that you look at in the text, in the Sunnah. They don't make sense if you compare them with and to reality. So I started digging into this, and I thought, well, how far do I need to dig before I can finally find the evidence? And then I found, well, there's 4 or 5 texts which people normally bring up and say, well, here's evidence that Muhammad existed. And I looked at them and I found, no, they don't. And this is when I got stuck, and I said, okay, I have no evidence for the existence, but I have a lot of evidence that seems to suggest there is no reason to believe that Muhammad actually lived in Mecca for the reasons I've just outlined. And if you start doubting that, then the stops are off. Because now you need to look at anything and everything, and then you find out there's hardly anything that makes any sense in the Sunnah. And this is where I am today, where I'm saying, okay, I am not aware of any evidence. If I look at the Sunnah, the way that it is claimed there, it does not make sense when just looking at reality and saying, okay, yes, there is a reason to believe that. And that's it. I don't need more time. This is just my take, my view on this, that I do not see any evidence for the existence of Muhammad. If somebody can bring me some, brilliant.
Okay. And would you like to begin now, Jamal?
He's got 2 minutes left. Is he giving his time? Yeah,
I think he's giving his time.
Yeah, so there's no point. Yeah,
your time will begin when you begin speaking.
Cool. So yeah, all right. So he mentioned Jesus. That's not the debate. He mentioned Mecca. That's not the debate. He mentioned, well, he actually tried to limit the parameters. Or very, very slightly tried to limit the parameters to Sunnah and text, which is not going to work. What I'm going to do now is provide historical evidence that his independent historical evidence, meaning independent of the Islamic traditions, meaning contemporary to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and contemporary to the person in question. This is how we ascertain the existence of a historical personage, not by the internal evidence, that is not to say, not by the confessionary evidence, but by non-confessionary evidence, by people who didn't subscribe to Islam, and they're mentioning. So the reference I'm going to be referring to is Seeing Islam as Others Saw It. Stop said that he's got the book, so I point him towards chapter 4 of Seeing Islam as Others Saw It by Robert Hoyland. Now, so he mentions in this book, which gathers together primary source material from the time in question, 7th century AD. All different types of sources: Persian, Byzantine, West Syrian, Coptic, Armenian, all different types of sources. We're going to focus in on the relevant sources here, and that will be Thomas the Presbyter, who died in 640 AD, and he writes the following, which is quoted. This artifact, or this primary source, is found in the British Museum Syriac collection, That's where Robert Hoyland extracts the primary source from, as it's housed in the British Library. Thomas of Presbyter, you can look it up, you can double find it. If you have the book, like Stop says he has, he can just go to chapter 4. The second reference is there, and it says the following. So the quote is, in the year 947, which in brackets is 635, 636, just this difference in time is due to calendar issues, which we're not going to get into here. The point is, as I said, Thomas of Presbyter died in 640 AD, and he writes, in the year 635 or 636 AD, the Arabs invaded the whole of Syria and went down into Persia and conquered it. The Arabs climbed the mountain of Mardin and killed many monks in Kedar and Banata, and there the blessed man Simon, doorkeeper, the priest, so on and so forth. It continues. In the year 945, on Friday, 4th of February, which correlates to 634 AD of our calendar today, so it's the same date, well, year before, 634. At the 9th hour, there was a battle between the Romans and the Arabs of Muhammad, and in the original it says Tayyi di Muhammad. So in Palestine, 12 miles east of Gaza, the Romans fled, leaving behind the patrician whom the Arabs killed. Some 4,000 poor villagers were killed. Christians, Jews, and Samaritans, the Arabs ravaged the whole region. So Robert Hoyland now commentating on this primary source from Thomas of Presbyter, which, as I said, just to remind everyone, says 634, at the 9th hour, there was a battle between the Romans and the Arabs of Muhammad. Cool. So commentating on this reference, Robert Hoyland says the following. He says, this is the first explicit reference to Muhammad in a non-Muslim source, and its very precise dating inspires confidence that it ultimately derives from first-hand knowledge. We're talking about primary sources. This is the explicit statement of that. So this is found on page 120 of Seeing Islam as Others Saw It by Robert Hoyland. I'm going to repeat the quote again. It says, this is the first explicit reference to Muhammad in a non-Muslim source, and its very precise dating inspires confidence that it ultimately derives from first-hand knowledge. And I give my time.
You have 1 minute left.
I told you, I give my time. That's it.
Are you finished? Are you finished, Jamal?
Yep.
Okay. Stop spamming. Would you like to have 5 minutes to do another round?
Sure.
Okay, your 5 minutes begins now.